Maayong ngiog-ngiog nga udto kanatong tanan. My dear friends, once again, we hear the gospel that Jesus addresses once again the very issue of hypocrisy that he finds in the scribes, the Pharisees, and even the teachers of the law. And this is not just one instance that we find in the gospel, but many times over. And many times as well that he condemns the hypocrisy of these people, their actions, that instead of drawing others to God, they are drawing souls away from the Lord. However, the very source of the reproach, the strong reproach of Jesus, is the fact that hypocrisy dwells on a heart that believes that justification is not a matter of God's grace, but it is a matter of human endeavor. That would be translated into a kind of conviction that we can just save ourselves by doing good, by following the law of Moses as the scribes and Pharisees would believe, without even considering the sacrifices of God. And opposite to this, we know that justification is a God's initiative and not by man's. We know that justification is a gift of salvation offered by the blood of the Lamb to humanity, and not that we are worthy and entitled of it. However, alongside with this mainstream of hypocrisy, it could also be that we are under the trap of hypocrisy if we stop searching and knowing who God is. Remember the gospel yesterday when Jesus throws a two-level question to his disciples: who do people say that I am, and who do you say that I am? Questions that entail intimacy and relationship. And here, if we stop knowing who God is and being contented of the God that we know of, this could also be a sort of hypocrisy. It is because by the stale knowledge that we have, we stop opening our hearts and minds and letting God to reveal Himself to us. Because the greatest knowledge of God is not the theoretical knowledge about Him, but that is something being revealed by Him and being accepted to us by our faith response. And knowledge of God is always in the context of an intimate relationship. And that is also the same thing with the saint in whose memorial we are celebrating today, in which we know that before the conversions of St. Augustine, he lived a life of a dissolute living, thinking that he can just find the kind of happiness that he wants by just imposing his own liberty and freedom, when in fact he is just destroying himself. And yet, his heart is restless. And that from being restless, he searches for God. From being restless and being sinful, and being not contented anymore by the prospects of the world, by the lies of the world, then his mind and his heart was being directed towards the search for God, the search for meaning, and the search for purpose. And this is not only true to those people who lived a dissolute living and wanted to be converted, but this is also true to us. And if we stop searching God, then we are like the hypocrites in today's gospel. And that is why we should continue to open our minds and our hearts. We continue to open our very self for that continuous self-revelation of God to us by our faith response, so that we can come to the knowledge of the truth and we can grow in love with God and can grow maturely in our spiritual life. And this is when we can say that we can always answer to that question in yesterday's gospel: and who do you say that I am? A very personal question that entails a personal answer. We can only provide such an answer if we continue to search for God. We continue to look for Him in all means, in all events, and in all experiences of our life, knowing that God will always reveal Himself to us. Amen.